I'm Alina Vance, 28, and I was the youngest lead architect in the city before my husband convinced me my place was at home supporting his climb to the top. The crystal chandelier above our heads, a fixture I personally selected during the renovations I designed, glittered like a mockery of my former life. Tonight was supposed to be the night Julian finally secured the partnership at the firm. The air in our living room was thick with the scent of expensive cologne, roasted garlic, and ambition. I moved through the crowd of 50 people, balancing a silver tray of champagne flutes. My feet throbbed in heels that Julian had picked out. Smile, Alina, I told myself. Just get through the night. I spotted Julian near the fireplace holding court with 3 senior partners. He looked magnetic. He looked perfect. But I knew the monster that lived behind that charming veneer. I approached the circle, offering a drink to a man I recognized from the industry news. My hand trembled slightly as I extended the tray. A single drop of condensation from the glass slid down and hit the polished oak floor. Julian's laughter cut off instantly. His eyes snapped to me. They weren't the eyes of a loving husband. They were the eyes of a shark smelling blood in the water. Darling, he said, his voice smooth as silk, though the undertone made my stomach turn to ice. He stepped forward and wrapped an arm around my waist. To the room, it looked like an affectionate embrace. To me, it felt like a vice. His fingers dug into the soft flesh of my side, pinching hard enough to make me gasp. "You're spilling things," he whispered into my ear, his lips brushing my lobe like a lover's caress. I didn't mean to," I stammered, keeping my voice low. "You look frantic," he hissed, the pressure of his fingers increasing until I had to bite the inside of my cheek to keep from crying out. "Your hair is a mess. You look disheveled. You are embarrassing me in front of the board." I caught my reflection in the hallway mirror over his shoulder. My hair was perfectly pinned. My dress was immaculate. He was lying. He was doing what he always did, breaking my reality until I didn't know up from down. "Go to the kitchen," he commanded through his teeth while smiling broadly at the CEO across the room. He steered me away from the guests, his grip shifting from my waist to my upper arm. His thumb pressed into my bicep with bruising force. He marched me past the kitchen island, past the catering staff who pretended not to see the fear in my eyes. We reached the narrow hallway leading to the service entrance. He didn't stop at the pantry. He stopped at the laundry room. He opened the door and shoved me inside. I stumbled back, my hip colliding with the washing machine. The room was tiny, smelling of bleach and dryer sheets. "Stay here," he said, his face contorted with a sudden, naked rage that the guests would never see. "Julian, please," I begged, my voice trembling. "I can just stay in the bedroom." "And risk you wandering out again looking like a hysteria patient?" he sneered. "No, you stay here, you stay silent. Do not make a sound until the last guest leaves. If I hear a peep, Alina, you know what happens later." He slammed the door shut. The darkness was instant. Then came the sound that shattered the last of my dignity. Click. He locked it from the outside. I stood there in the dark, surrounded by dirty linens, listening to the muffled sounds of laughter and clinking glasses just down the hall. My heart hammered against my ribs like a trapped bird. I was the architect who had designed the flow of this entire house, yet here I was, trapped in its smallest box. I slid down the front of the washing machine until I hit the cold tile floor. I pulled my knees to my chest. I listened to the party continue without me. I listened to my husband charm the world while I disappeared. Tears pricked my eyes, hot and stinging, but I refused to let them fall. I wasn't just a wife. I wasn't just a prop. I used to build skyscrapers. And as I sat in the dark, listening to the hum of the house I built, something inside me didn't break. It hardened. I'm Alina Vance, 28, and tonight I am not the award-winning architect of the city's skyline, but a prisoner in my own utility closet. The smell of powdered detergent is suffocating, coating the back of my throat with a thick chemical dust that makes me want to gag. Beside me, the dryer tumbles a load of heavy sheets, and the rhythmic thump 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 vibrates through the floorboards and travels straight up my spine. It is a maddening mechanical heartbeat that mocks the frantic racing of my own pulse. I press my burning cheek against the cold, white enamel of the door. The metal sucks the heat right out of my skin, grounding me in the humiliating reality of my situation. I close my eyes, straining to filter out the mechanical roar of the machines and focus on the sounds from the hallway. The party is in full swing just inches away from my prison. The muffled roar of 50 distinct conversations creates a wall of noise, a symphony of wealth and status that I am barred from entering. But Julian's voice cuts through it all. He has that specific baritone projection he practiced in the mirror for hours. The executive voice, he calls it. It wasn't just about height, I hear him say, his voice booming closer than I expected, likely standing right outside the service corridor. It was about harmonizing the steel structure with the natural wind patterns off the bay. My breath hitches in my throat and stays there, painful and sharp. My hands, resting on my knees, curl into fists so tight my nails cut into my palms. Those are my words, not just my concepts. My literal words. I had written that exact phrase in the project proposal I drafted 3 nights ago at the kitchen island. The same proposal he told me was too sentimental and needed his professional polish. I hear the distinct clink of crystal glasses tapping together in a toast. Brilliant Julian, a deep voice rumbles in response. I freeze. I recognize that voice instantly. It is Marcus Thorne, the CEO of the firm. The man I have been dying to meet for 5 years, the man whose biography sits on my nightstand. The way you utilize the negative space in the atrium blueprints, Marcus continues, sounding genuinely awed. I haven't seen vision like that in a decade. A hot tear leaks out of my eye and slides down my cheek, dripping onto the silk of my dress. The atrium. I spent 18 months perfecting that atrium. I remember the nights I sat at the drafting table while Julian was out drinking with clients until 2 a.m. I remember the cramps in my fingers from sketching the load-bearing columns by hand because the software couldn't capture the organic curve I wanted. I remember how Julian would come home, glance at my work with glazed eyes, and say, "It's a cute hobby, Alina, but leave the real engineering to the men." Now he is out there, accepting praise for the very lines he had mocked. "Thank you, Marcus," Julian says, and I can practically hear the smug reptilian grin stretching across his face. I wanted the building to breathe. It came to me in a dream, really. A dream. He is calling my blood, sweat, and tears a dream. I feel a wave of nausea roll over me, violent and sudden. I look down at myself in the sliver of light coming from under the door. I am sitting on a pile of dirty bath towels that the housekeeper hasn't had time to wash yet. My silk dress, worth more than my first car, is pooled around me on the dusty tile. I am the woman who designed the foundation of this house. I selected the joists. I calculated the sheer strength of the walls to ensure they would never collapse. And now I am reduced to a dirty secret hidden behind a locked door in the dark. The injustice of it burns in my chest like a physical flame, hotter than the shame. He doesn't just want to hide me. He wants to erase me. He needs me gone so he can become the genius he never was. I shift my weight and the floor creaks beneath me. Panic spikes through my chest. I hold my breath, terrified that the noise has carried into the hall. "And your wife?" Marcus asks, his voice clear. "I was hoping to meet Alina. I heard she dabbles in design." Dabbles. The word hits me like a physical slap across the face. Is that what Julian told them, that I dabble? "Oh, you know Alina." Julian laughs, a dismissive, cruel sound that makes my stomach turn. "She's not feeling well tonight, a bit of a fragile constitution. She's resting upstairs." Liar, I want to scream. I want to pound on the door until my fists bleed. I want to march out there and recite the tensile strength of every beam in the city to prove who the real architect is. But fear is a heavy blanket. If I hear a peep, Alina, you know what happens later. His threat echoes in my mind, paralyzing my vocal cords. I know what happens later. The cold silence, the gaslighting, the way he would make me feel like I was the crazy one for upsetting him on his big night. I pull my knees tighter to my chest, making myself as small as possible on the dirty floor. The dryer buzzes loudly, signaling the end of its cycle. The sudden silence in the small room is deafening. Now, without the machine's roar, the voices outside are crystal clear. "Well," Marcus says, his voice drifting nearer, dangerously near. "I'd love to see the original sketches you mentioned. Do you have them on hand?" My heart stops. The sketches. The original sketches where I hid my initials, EV, in the cross-hatching of the shading. Julian hesitates. I can feel the tension radiating through the wood of the door. I believe they are in the study." Julian stammers slightly, his confidence cracking. "Actually," Marcus says, and I hear his heavy footsteps move toward me. "I think I left my phone in the kitchen. Let me grab that and then we can look at the plans." The footsteps are coming closer. They are coming toward the service hallway, toward the laundry room. I scramble backward, pressing myself into the gap between the washing machine and the wall. "Please don't come in here. Please don't see me like this." Broken, hidden, discarded on a pile of laundry like trash. I am not ready to be found. Not yet. But as I cower in the dark, my hand brushes against something on top of the dryer. It is a heavy metal wrench left behind by the repairman. My fingers close around the cold steel. It feels solid. It feels real. It feels like a tool used to build things or dismantle them. I take a deep, shaky breath as the doorknob begins to turn. I'm Alina Vance, 28, and tonight was supposed to be the night I was celebrated as a visionary architect. But instead, I am crouching on a pile of dirty towels while my husband steals my career in the next room. The sudden, metallic click of the doorknob turning sends a bolt of electricity straight through my nervous system. My lungs seize. I stop breathing entirely. I scramble backward, my heels scraping frantically against the linoleum, until my spine slams into the cold, vibrating metal of the washing machine. I grip the heavy wrench in my hand so tight my knuckles turn white. If it's Julian coming back to punish me for making noise, I don't know what I'll do. I brace myself for his anger. I brace myself for the hiss of his voice telling me how ungrateful I am. But the door doesn't fly open with violence. It opens slowly, deliberately, swinging inward with a smooth, silent glide. A wedge of golden light from the hallway slices through the darkness of the laundry room. It blinds me for a second, stinging my eyes after sitting in the gloom for so long. I shrink down, pulling my knees up to my chin, trying to become invisible behind the dryer. A figure steps inside. It isn't Julian. The silhouette is too tall, too broad in the shoulders. The man steps fully into the small room and immediately turns around to press the door shut, engaging the lock with a soft snick. He leans his forehead against the white wood for a second, letting out a long, heavy exhale that seems to rattle in his chest. He is hiding, just like me. He runs a large hand through his hair, messing up the perfect styling, and groans softly. Too much, he mutters to himself, his voice a deep, gravelly rumble that vibrates in the small space. Just 1 minute of silence. That's all I ask. I am frozen. I am a statue carved out of fear and humiliation. The scent of him hits me instantly, overpowering the smell of detergent and bleach. It is expensive cologne, sandalwood, aged leather, and something sharp like cold mountain air. It is the smell of power. I know that profile. I know the sharp cut of that jawline and the way he holds himself, even in exhaustion. It is Silas Thorne, the billionaire CEO of the conglomerate Julian works for. The man who signs the checks. The man who owns the building I designed. He is the most powerful man in the city, standing 3 feet away from me in a utility closet. If he turns around, my life is over. If he sees me, the crazy wife locked away with the laundry, Julian will have the excuse he needs to commit me. I hold my breath until my chest burns. I pray to a God I haven't spoken to in years that he will just stand there for a moment and leave. But fate is cruel tonight. Silas turns. He turns to lean his back against the door, seeking a reprieve from the party, and his eyes sweep the room. They land on the washer, they land on the dryer, and then inevitably they land on the floor, they land on me. I flinch, squeezing my eyes shut as if that will make me disappear. Jesus, he barks, his body jerking back against the door in surprise. My eyes snap open. He is staring at me. His hand is on his chest, over his heart. He looks at the wrench in my hand. He looks at my tear-stained face. He looks at the silk dress pulled around me on the dirty tiles. I wait for the disgust. I wait for him to laugh or to open the door and call out to Julian, "Come collect your trash." I try to speak, to offer some insane explanation, but my throat is glued shut with terror. I croak, the sound barely a whisper. Silas doesn't move. He doesn't open the door. He takes a step closer, the expensive leather of his shoes shining under the dim utility light. He crouches down. He doesn't look at me like I'm a monster. He doesn't look at me like I'm a hysterical wife. He tilts his head, his gray eyes narrowing as they sweep over my face. He looks at me, really looks at me, with an intensity that feels like a physical touch. And then his expression changes. It isn't pity, it's shock. His eyes widen with a recognition that makes my skin prickle with sudden heat. It's the look of a man who has just found the missing piece of a puzzle he's been trying to solve for years. "You," he breathes, the word hanging heavy in the chemical-scented air. He ignores the dirty laundry. He ignores the absurdity of the situation. He reaches into his inside jacket pocket, and for a terrifying second, I think he's reaching for a weapon, but he pulls out a folded piece of paper. It's a blueprint. My blueprint. One of the early drafts I thought Julian had thrown away. He unfolds it with reverence, his eyes flicking from the paper to my face and back again. "The shading," Silas whispers, pointing to the corner of the document where the cross-hatching forms the faint, almost invisible letters EV. He looks at me, and the air in the room shifts from terrified silence to something electric. "You're not the wife who dabbles," he says, his voice low and dangerous. My heart hammers against my ribs, but this time it isn't fear. "I've been searching for you," he says. I'm Alina Vance, 28, a ghost in my own marriage, and the true architect behind the billion-dollar Thorn Plaza project, though the world thinks I'm just a fragile housewife who hides in laundry rooms. The words hang between us, heavier than the humid, chemical-scented air of the small utility space. I've been searching for you. My brain misfires. I can't process the sound of his deep voice saying those specific words to a woman crouching on dirty tiles. I grip the heavy metal wrench tighter, my knuckles aching from the pressure until they turn bone white. Is this a trap? Is he mocking me? Sila's thorn doesn't mock people. He destroys them or he elevates them, and I am terrified I don't know which one is happening to me right now. I don't understand, I whisper, my voice cracking like dry wood. I am trembling so hard my teeth are about to chatter, my body vibrating with the adrenaline of a hunted animal. Silas shifts his weight, the expensive fabric of his suit rustling softly. He doesn't tower over me. He stays crouched, keeping his eyes perfectly level with mine. It is an act of deference I haven't experienced in 3 years. The Thorn Plaza designs, he says, his voice a low rumble that seems to vibrate through the floorboards beneath my knees. The cantilevered terrace, the structural integrity of the glass curtain wall. He recites the details of my work with a lover's intimacy. Julian presented them. I stammer, my eyes darting to the locked door, terrified that my husband is just on the other side listening. Julian presented the blueprints. Silas corrects me, his eyes darkening into storm clouds. But he didn't understand them. My heart hammers a frantic rhythm against my ribs. Bam, bam, bam. I asked him about the load-bearing calculations for the north face last week. Silas continues, his gaze locking onto mine like a laser. He gave me a textbook answer. Standard, safe. Silas leans in closer. I can smell the sandalwood and the faint, sharp scent of rain on his jacket. But the design isn't standard, is it, Alina? He says my name like it has weight, like it means something other than burden. No, I breathe, the architect in me waking up despite the crushing fear. The north face needs a counterweight system. Standard calculations would cause a sheer failure within 5 years. A spark flares in his gray eyes. It is a look of absolute predatory satisfaction. Exactly, he murmurs. He reaches into his pocket again, but not for a phone. He pulls out a folded, crinkled piece of sketching paper. It isn't a blueprint, it is a cocktail napkin. My breath hitches in my throat, a sharp intake of air that burns my lungs. I remember that napkin. I drew on it 6 months ago at a gala Julian forced me to attend, sketching to keep myself sane while he schmoozed investors in the corner. I had left it on the bar table when Julian dragged me out. I found this, Silas says softly, and I saw the shading. He unfolds the delicate paper with hands that are surprisingly gentle. There, hidden in the intricate cross-hatching of the shadows, are 2 tiny letters woven into the ink, E.V. Alina Vance. I went back and checked every document Julian submitted, Silas says, his voice hardening with a suppressed, cold rage. Every single one was clean, sanitized. But then I bought the preliminary sketches from the firm's archive, the ones they thought were trash. He looks at me and the intensity of his stare makes my skin prickle with heat. They all have it, Alina, the EV hidden in the geometry, in the trees, in the texture of the concrete. The room spins, he knows, he has known for months. You signed your work, he says, a ghost of a smile touching his lips. You want it to be found. Tears prick my eyes, hot and sudden. I didn't want to be found. I wanted to survive. I signed them because it was the only piece of my soul I had left, the only proof that I existed. Julian, I choke out, looking at the door again. If he knows. He doesn't, Silas interrupts, his voice turning into steel. He thinks he's a genius. He thinks he's fooled me. Silas looks at the wrench in my hand. He looks at the bruise beginning to bloom on my wrist where Julian grabbed me earlier. His jaw tightens. A muscle feathers in his cheek, a sign of violence held on a very thin leash. He is a fraud, Silas states, the words final and absolute. And he is finished. The relief that washes over me is so powerful it makes me dizzy. It feels like drowning in reverse. Air rushes into my lungs for the first time in forever. I drop the wrench. It clatters loudly against the tile, the sound echoing like a gunshot in the small space. I flinch, curling in on myself, waiting for the door to burst open. But it doesn't, because Silas is there. He is a wall between me and the monster outside. "You don't belong on the floor, Alina," he says quietly. He extends a hand toward me. His palm is broad, his fingers long and strong. It is a hand that builds empires. It is a hand that can crush men like Julian without breaking a sweat. I look at his hand, then I look at his face. There is no pity there, there is only respect and an invitation. "Take my hand," he commands, soft but firm. "Walk out of here with me." "I can't," I whisper, the old fear clawing at my throat. "He'll destroy me." "Let him try," Silas says, and his eyes are dark promises of vindication. "You are the mind behind the Thorn legacy. You are the most valuable person in this entire house." He waits. He doesn't force me. He waits for me to choose. I look at the dirty laundry piled around me. I look at the washing machine that has been my only confidant. Then I look at the man offering me a way out. I reach out, my hand is shaking, my skin pale and scarred compared to his. My fingers brush his palm. His grip closes around my hand instantly. Warm, solid, unbreakable, he pulls and I rise. My legs are shaky, my silk dress wrinkled, but I am standing. I am standing next to Silas Thorn. He doesn't let go of my hand. He turns toward the door, his body shielding mine. "Ready?" he asks. I take a deep breath, inhaling his scent, inhaling his power. "Yes," I say. And for the first time in my life, I believe it. I'm Alina Vance, 28, the ghost architect behind the billion-dollar Thorn Plaza, and I am done hiding in the dark. Silas's hand is still gripping mine. It is warm. It is the anchor keeping me from floating away into the abyss of my own panic. He hasn't pulled me toward the door yet. He is just holding me, letting the reality of his offer sink into my bones. But peace in this house is a fragile thing. It shatters in an instant. The heavy oak door to the laundry room doesn't just open. It flies inward, slamming against the rubber doorstop with a violence that makes me jump. I gasp, my instinct to cower kicking in before my brain can stop it. Silas doesn't flinch. He doesn't drop my hand. Instead, he steps slightly in front of me, his shoulder eclipsing my view of the hallway. "Silas," a voice slurs from the doorway. "Where the hell did you go? I was opening the vintage." "It's Julian, my husband. The man who locked me in here." He steps into the small, humid room, the stark utility light washing over him. He looks like the picture of a successful man. His tuxedo is custom fitted. His hair is perfectly gelled. He is holding a crystal tumbler of amber liquid, his knuckles loose around the glass, but his face is flushed a deep, blotchy red. He is drunk on success. He is drunk on the praise he stole from me. And then his eyes adjust to the dim light. He sees Silas Thorn, the most powerful man in the city, standing between the washing machines. Julian blinks, a stupid, slow movement. Then he looks down. He sees Silas's hand. He sees my hand inside it. The color drains from Julian's face so fast it looks like a magic trick. 1 second he is flushed with scotch and arrogance. The next he is the color of old ash. His mouth opens but no sound comes out. He looks from Silas to me and back to Silas. The glass in his hand trembles, the ice cubes clinking together with a tiny musical sound that echoes in the silence. Panic flares in his eyes. I know that look. It's the look of a con artist realizing the mark has seen the cards. He swallows hard, his Adam's apple bobbing in his throat. He needs to salvage this. He needs to spin the narrative before it crushes him. A nervous, breathless laugh bubbles up from his throat. It sounds wet and pathetic. "Silas." He chokes out, taking a stumbling step back as if to block the doorway with his body. "My God, I am so sorry." He doesn't look at me. He refuses to meet my eyes. He keeps his gaze fixed desperately on the CEO. I didn't realize you found your way back here, Julian babbles, his voice pitching higher. This house is a maze, isn't it? Even I get turned around. Silas says nothing. He just stares at Julian with eyes that look like chips of flint. The silence stretches, tight and suffocating as a noose. Julian can't handle the silence. He fills it with lies. He gestures vaguely in my direction with his glass, splashing a little scotch onto the pristine tile. And you found her, Julian says, his tone shifting. It becomes dismissive, condescending. I am so embarrassed, Julian laughs again, shaking his head. Good help is so hard to find these days, isn't it? My breath catches in my throat. I feel Silas's grip on my hand tighten. It hurts, but it grounds me. Help, Silas repeats. His voice is quiet, deadly. Julian nods vigorously, sweating now. The new maid, Julian lies, the words tumbling out of him in a rush. She's a sweet girl, but, well, she's a bit simple, confused. He taps his temple with a finger. She gets lost in the house, wanders into rooms she shouldn't be in. I told the agency to send someone sharper, but you know how it is. He looks at me then. For the first time, he looks at me. His eyes are pleading and threatening all at once. Play along, his eyes scream. Be the mute, stupid thing I need you to be. Come on now, Alina, Julian says, his voice dripping with a fake, sickly sweetness. Let go of Mr. Thorne, you're bothering the guest. Go back to your quarters. He talks to me like I am a dog, like I am a stray he regrets feeding. I stand there, frozen. I expect to feel the familiar, crushing weight of shame. I expect to feel the urge to apologize, to shrink, to disappear into the floorboards just to make the tension stop. That is who I have been for 3 years. The terrified wife, the shadow, but something is different. Maybe it's the warmth of Silas's hand. Maybe it's the knowledge that my initials are hidden in the steel and glass of the city's greatest tower. Or maybe I am just full. I am full of his lies. I am full of his poison. I look at Julian, really look at him. I see the sweat beading on his upper lip. I see the terror behind his eyes. He isn't a monster. He is small. He is a parasite who has been feeding on my brilliance to make himself look tall. The heat of shame that usually floods my cheeks doesn't come. Instead, a cold sensation starts in my toes. It travels up my legs, turning my blood into liquid nitrogen. It freezes my spine. It clears the fog in my brain. It is rage, pure, beautiful, crystalline rage. He called me simple. He called the woman who solved the cantilever stress fracture equations confused. I feel my posture straighten. I feel my chin lift. I squeeze Silas's hand back. Silas feels the shift in me. He glances down, his gray eyes widening slightly as he sees the fire igniting in mine. I step forward. I step out of the shadow of the washing machine. I step into the light. I'm not the maid, Julian, I say. My voice is steady. It doesn't shake. It cuts through the humid air like a scalpel. Julian flinches as if I slapped him. Alina, don't start one of your episodes, he begins, stepping forward aggressively. And I am not confused, I interrupt him, my voice rising, gaining power with every syllable. Silas watches me. He hasn't let go. He is letting me lead. I am your wife, I say, taking another step toward the door, dragging Silas with me. And I am the architect. Julian turns pale white. What did you say? He whispers. I said I am the architect, I repeat, savoring the words. And Mr. Thorne knows. I look at Silas. Tell him, I say. Silas smiles. It is a terrifying, shark-like smile directed entirely at my husband. She's right, Julian, Silas says softly. I think we need to have a performance review. Julian's laugh sounds like glass breaking in a garbage disposal. A performance review? He sputters, wiping his sweaty palms on his tuxedo pants. Silas, really, this is hardly the time. The gala is waiting, the investors. Silas doesn't move. He is a statue carved from judgment. He ignores Julian completely. He turns his head slowly, looking right at me. His gray eyes are demanding. They are not asking for an apology. They are asking for proof. The north atrium, Silas says. His voice is low, barely a murmur, but it sucks the air out of the room. The cantilever extends 40 feet over the plaza with no visible support columns. The engineering firm said it was impossible. They said the sheer stress on the primary truss would snap the steel like a twig. He pauses, watching me. How does it stay up? The question hangs in the humid air. It is a test. It is the only test that matters. Julian jumps in before I can take a breath. He has to. He is drowning, and his voice is his only life raft. Well, Silas, obviously it's a matter of high tensile alloys. Julian babbles, his eyes darting around the room, looking for an answer written on the washing machines. He is sweating profusely now. Dark patches are blooming under the arms of his expensive jacket. We used a proprietary steel blend, he lies, his voice cracking. And the geometry, it's about the flow of the wind load you see when the wind hits the glass. He is making it up. He is throwing buzzwords into the air like confetti, hoping one of them lands. It's very complex, Julian dismisses, waving a hand nervously. Too technical to get into right now. Let's go back to the bar, Silas. I can have my team send you the specs in the morning. Silas doesn't blink. He doesn't look at Julian. He keeps his eyes locked on mine. The wind load isn't the problem, Silas says to me. The problem is the dead weight of the glass at the connection point. How does it stay up? I feel a strange sensation in my chest. It isn't fear. For the first time in 3 years, it isn't fear. It is clarity. The numbers flood my mind. They are my oldest friends. They are the only things in my life that Julian couldn't touch, couldn't corrupt, and couldn't steal because he couldn't understand them. I step forward. I drop Silas's hand not because I want to leave him, but because I need to stand on my own 2 feet. I square my shoulders. I look at Julian, who is panting slightly, his face slick with panic. Then I look at Silas. It's not the steel, I say. My voice is quiet, but it rings off the tile walls. The steel is standard ASTM A992 grade. If you increase the tensile strength, you'd lose ductility and the structure would shatter in a high wind event. Julian freezes. His mouth hangs open. I take another step. I am walking through the fire and I am not burning. The load isn't carried by the truss. I continue, the words flowing out of me like music. I redistributed the weight using a hidden tension ring inside the atrium's crown. I tap my own temple. It's an inverted catenary curve disguised as a decorative molding. It transfers the vertical load into horizontal thrust, which is absorbed by the existing elevator core walls. I look directly at Julian. The cantilever isn't floating, Julian, it's being pulled back. It's a counterbalance system. I recite the formula. Vector sum of forces equals 0. The moment at the connection point is negated by the tension ring's radial force. I rattle off the coefficients. Safety factor 1.5. Live load deflection less than L over 360. I stop. The silence in the laundry room is absolute. It is heavy. It is final. Julian looks like he has been punched in the gut. He shrinks back against the dryer, his expensive tuxedo looking like a costume on a child. He has no words. He has no lies left, because you cannot fake the math. You cannot charm your way through physics. I turn back to Silas. I wait. A slow smile spreads across Silas Thorne's face. It is not a polite smile. It is a smile of victory. The inverted catenary, Silas whispers, nodding slowly. My engineers spent 6 months trying to figure out how you did it without a column. They called it magic. He looks at Julian, then back to me. But it wasn't magic, Silas says. It was you. I feel tears prick my eyes, but they are not sad tears. They are hot tears of vindication. It was me, I whisper. Julian makes a small, choked sound in the corner. She's lying, he wheezes, but there is no power in it. She must have read my notes. Silas laughs. It is a dark, dry sound that echoes off the cold tiles. She didn't read your notes, Julian, Silas says, turning on his heel to face my husband. She wrote them. Silas extends his elbow to me. It is a formal gesture, a gesture for an equal. Mrs. Vance, Silas says, his voice ringing with authority. I believe we have a party to crash. I look at Julian one last time. He is sliding down the front of the dryer, defeated, small, and utterly exposed. I place my hand on Silas's arm. Yes, I say, I believe we do. I'm Alina Vance, 32, and after 3 years of being erased from my own life, I am walking out of the shadows to claim the billion-dollar skyline I designed. My hand rests on the crook of Silas Thorne's arm. The fabric of his tuxedo is expensive. It is smooth, cool wool that costs more than my husband allowed me to spend on groceries in a year. I feel the hard muscle of Silas's bicep beneath the cloth. He is solid. He is real. I take one step away from the washing machine, then another. I hear a scramble behind me. I hear the squeak of dress shoes on wet tile. Silas, wait, Julian cries out. His voice is thin. It echoes weakly off the cinder block walls. I feel a phantom urge to stop. My body wants to obey the command. My muscles tense, ready to turn around, ready to apologize, ready to fix the mess I've made. But Silas doesn't slow down. He walks with a long, predatory stride. He pulls me forward, physically dragging me out of the orbit of my abuser. I don't look back. I fix my eyes on the swinging metal doors at the end of the service corridor. We push through them. The transition is violent. We go from the humid, soap-smelling silence of the laundry room into the service hallway. Waiters in white coats flatten themselves against the walls as we pass. They stare at me. They see my plain dress. They see my messy hair. They see the CEO of Thorne Enterprises holding me like I am royalty. Keep your head up, Alina, Silas murmurs. He doesn't look at me. He looks straight ahead. Do not look down. I lift my chin. My heart is hammering against my ribs. It feels like a trapped bird trying to break my sternum. We reach the end of the hall. The massive double doors to the grand ballroom are closed. I can hear the music bleeding through the wood. It is a string quartet playing Vivaldi. I can hear the low roar of 300 wealthy people discussing money and power. Silas stops. He turns to me. He reaches out and tucks a loose strand of hair behind my ear. His fingers are warm against my cold skin. Are you ready? He asks. I take a shaky breath. I think of the cantilever. I think of the math. I think of Julian shivering against the dryer. Yes, I whisper. Silas nods to the doormen. Open them. The doormen look confused, but they obey. They throw the heavy doors wide open. The light hits me first. It is blinding. Thousands of crystals from the chandeliers refract the light into piercing daggers of gold and white. The air changes instantly. It is cool, crisp, and smells of expensive perfume and roasted duck. We step onto the plush carpet. Silas leads me right down the center of the aisle. For 3 seconds, no one notices. Then the ripple starts. A woman in a red gown near the door spots us. Her glass stops halfway to her mouth. She nudges her husband. He turns. His eyes widen. The ripple becomes a wave. Heads turn. Conversations die mid-sentence. The silence spreads through the room like a contagion, faster than we can walk. The string quartet falters. The cellist looks up, sees the CEO marching down the center of the room with a disheveled woman on his arm, and stops playing. The music cuts out. The room is dead silent. 300 pairs of eyes are glued to me. I feel naked. I feel the grease stain on my skirt burning like a brand. I feel the judgment radiating from them like heat from a furnace. Who is she? Why is she here? Is that the help? I grip Silas's arm tighter. My knuckles are white. My knees threaten to buckle. But Silas stops. We are in the dead center of the room. We are under the largest chandelier. We are surrounded by the board of directors. I see them. Old men in expensive suits holding Scotch glasses. They look at me with open disdain. One of them, a man with a silver beard named Mr. Henderson, steps forward. Silas, he asks, his voice booming in the quiet room. Is there a problem? Security can remove the woman if she's bothering you. He thinks I am an intruder. He thinks I am crazy. I feel the shame rising in my throat, bitter and acidic. Silas releases my arm. Panic spikes in my chest. Don't let go, I scream internally. Don't leave me here. But he doesn't leave. He steps to my side. He places a hand on the small of my back. It is a possessive, protective gesture. He turns to face the board. He turns to face the investors. He raises his voice. It is a baritone rumble that reaches the back corners of the ballroom without a microphone. Gentlemen, Silas says. His voice is cold steel. You have been asking me for months who solved the structural impossibility of the North Atrium. Mr. Henderson blinks. Well, yes, Silas, we assumed it was Julian's team. Silas laughs. It is a short, sharp sound that holds no humor. Julian, Silas says, spitting the name out like a curse. Julian couldn't build a birdhouse without instructions. A gasp ripples through the crowd. I see movement near the entrance. Julian has stumbled into the room. He is standing by the doors, pale and sweating, watching his world collapse from a distance. Silas ignores him. He looks at me. He gestures to me with an open hand. We have spent billions on this tower, Silas announces to the room. We have marketed it as the future of architecture, but until 10 minutes ago I didn't know who the future was. My breath catches in my throat. Silas looks at the board. You wanted the visionary? Silas asks. He points at me. Here she is. The silence stretches. It is tight as a bowstring. This is Alina Vance, Silas declares, his voice ringing with absolute conviction. She is the author of the inverted catenary system. She is the reason the tower stands. She is the architect. He pauses for effect. And she is the only person in this room I am interested in listening to. Mr. Henderson looks at me. His expression changes. The disdain vanishes. It is replaced by shock and then slowly by respect. He looks at my plain dress. He looks at my messy hair. And then he looks at my eyes. He sees the fire. He sees the math. I straighten my spine until it pops. I let go of the fear. I look at the hundreds of strangers staring at me. I am not the maid. I am not the wife. I take a deep breath, filling my lungs with the expensive, conditioned air. I am the architect, and I have arrived. I'm Alina Vance, 32, and for the first time in my life, the silence in the room isn't because I'm invisible, but because I am finally being seen. The air in the ballroom is electric. It vibrates against my skin. Silas's introduction hangs in the space between the chandeliers and the floor like a physical object. She is the architect. Mr. Henderson, the board member who looked at me with disdain moments ago, is now looking at me with something else. Curiosity, maybe even awe. He takes a step toward me, his hand extended, likely to offer an apology or a handshake. But he never gets the chance. There is a commotion near the double doors. A frantic, desperate scrambling sound breaks the heavy silence. No, a voice shrieks. It is a voice I know better than my own heartbeat. It is the voice that has controlled my finances for 5 years. The voice that told me I was too plain to be loved. The voice that told me my math was a cute hobby. Julian pushes through the crowd of investors. He is not the polished, charming man who walked into this party an hour ago. His tie is crooked. His hair is wild, plastered to his forehead with sweat. His face is a mask of pure, unadulterated panic. He shoves a waiter aside, sending a tray of champagne flutes crashing to the floor. Glass shatters. The sound is sharp and violent. People gasp and recoil, creating a wide path for him. He runs right at me. "Alina," he screams, his eyes bulging. Silas tenses beside me. I feel his muscles coil, ready to intercept. But I don't move behind Silas. I don't hide. I stand my ground. Julian reaches me in 3 strides. He doesn't look at Silas. He doesn't look at the board members. He looks only at me, and his eyes are filled with a terrifying mix of fury and fear. He reaches out. His hand clamps onto my bare shoulder. His fingers dig into my skin. It hurts. It is the grip of a drowning man trying to pull me under with him. "She's having an episode," Julian shouts to the room, his voice cracking. "I'm so sorry, everyone. My wife, she's not well. She's off her medication." He tries to pull me. He tries to physically drag me out of the circle of light and back into the shadows. "Come on, Alina," he hisses in my ear, his breath smelling of sour wine. "Don't embarrass me, we are leaving. Now." For a split second, the old Alina flickers. The Alina who is afraid of a scene. The Alina who believes she is broken. But then I look at the floor. I see the broken champagne glass. I see the light refracting off the shards. I think of the laundry room. I think of the cold tiles. I think of the inverted catenary curve that holds this entire building up. I am not broken. I am structural steel. I look at his hand on my shoulder. It looks like a foreign object. I feel a surge of rage so hot it almost blinds me. I lift my right hand. I don't hesitate. I swing my arm back and bring it down on his wrist with every ounce of strength I possess. Smack. The sound is louder than the breaking glass. It echoes off the vaulted ceiling. It reverberates through the silent ballroom. Julian yelps and recoils, clutching his hand to his chest. He looks at me in shock. He has never been hit by me. He has never even been yelled at by me. "Don't," I say. My voice is not a whisper. It is not shaky. It is low, clear, and deadly. "Do not ever touch me again." Julian blinks, his mouth opening and closing like a fish. "Alina, please," he stammers, trying to laugh it off, trying to regain the charm. "You're confused. You don't know what you're saying. The stress of the party." "I am not confused, Julian," I interrupt him. I turn my body so I am facing him, but I pitch my voice so the entire room can hear. I want them to hear. I want the witnesses. "I am done," I announce. The words taste like freedom. "I am done hiding in your laundry room. I am done fixing your mistakes in the middle of the night. And I am done playing the invisible wife so you can play the genius." The crowd murmurs. I see cell phones coming out. People are recording. Good, let them record. I take a step toward him. He takes a step back. He is shrinking. With every word I speak, he gets smaller. "I am the architect of the Thorn Tower," I declare, my voice rising. "I designed the atrium. I solved the wind-load variance. I did the math that you couldn't understand even when I explained it to you with crayons." Julian's face turns a sickly shade of gray. "Alina, stop," he begs, his voice a whisper now. "We can talk about this at home." I laugh. It is a cold, hard sound. "There is no home, Julian," I say. I look him dead in the eye. "The marriage is over." He flinches as if I slapped him again. "And as for the settlement," I continue, letting the words hang in the air. I point a finger at his chest. "You can keep the blueprints you stole from my desk." I pause, I smile. "They are the only things you will ever have of mine again." The room erupts, gasps, whispers, shock. Julian stands there frozen. He looks down at his empty hands. He looks around the room, searching for an ally, searching for anyone who still believes the lie. But there is no one. The board members are glaring at him with disgust. Silas is watching him with cold indifference. The waiters are sneering. Julian Vance, the golden boy of architecture, has been stripped bare. The look of horror on his face is absolute. It is the look of a man who realizes he is nothing without the woman he tried to erase. It is the most beautiful thing I have ever seen. I turn my back on him. I turn back to Silas. I turn back to the future. Mr. Thorne, I say, my voice steady. I believe you had a question about the atrium. I'm Alina Vance, 32, and watching my husband be forcibly removed from the billionaire's gala is the first time I have ever truly breathed. The silence that follows my declaration is heavy. It presses against my eardrums. Julian is staring at me. His mouth hangs open. He looks like a puppet whose strings have been cut. He takes a step toward me, his hands raising in a pleading gesture that makes my stomach turn. Alina, he chokes out. Baby, please, the stress, it's making you delusional. He tries to close the distance. He tries to re-enter my orbit, but the air between us suddenly shifts. A wall of black fabric appears in my peripheral vision. Silas moves. He doesn't lunge. He glides. He steps between me and Julian with the grace of a panther and the solidity of a bank vault. Silas raises one hand. It is a small, lazy gesture, but the effect is immediate. 4 men materialize from the corners of the room. They are wearing earpieces. They are wearing suits that cost more than Julian's car. They move with a synchronized, terrifying efficiency. Mr. Thorne, the lead security officer asks. Silas doesn't look at the officer. He keeps his eyes locked on Julian. Remove him, Silas says. His voice is calm. It is the voice of a man who orders airstrikes, not appetizers. On what grounds? Julian screeches, his voice cracking into a high, pathetic falsetto. This is my party. I am the lead architect. Silas tilts his head. He smiles. It is a smile full of teeth and zero warmth. You are a trespasser, Silas says, his voice carrying to every corner of the silent ballroom. And you are currently in possession of stolen intellectual property belonging to my firm. Julian freezes. What? He whispers. The designs, Silas continues, stepping closer to Julian until he towers over him. The structural integrity of the Thorne Tower belongs to its creator. Since you just admitted you can't even read the math, you are holding my proprietary data illegally. Silas flicks his gaze to the security team. Get him off my property, immediately. The security team descends. They don't ask Julian to leave. They don't guide him by the elbow. 2 of them grab his arms. They wrench his shoulders back. Hey. Julian shouts, get your hands off me. Do you know who I am? We know exactly who you are, sir, the guard says flatly. A liability. They begin to drag him. Julian's heels skid across the polished marble floor. The squeak of his expensive Italian loafers against the stone sounds like a scream. Alina, Julian howls, twisting his neck to look at me. His face is contorted. It is a mask of pure desperation. Veins bulge in his neck. Snot runs from his nose. Tell them to stop. I'm your husband. I stand perfectly still. I look down at myself. I am wearing a plain dress, but over it I am still wearing the stained apron I used when I was hiding in the kitchen, pretending to be catering staff to avoid his wrath earlier tonight. It is covered in grease spots. It smells of dish soap and fear. I look up at the socialites surrounding me. Women in diamonds, men in tuxedos, and me in my stained apron. But they aren't looking at my clothes. They are looking at me with reverence. I watch Julian struggle as he is hauled toward the double doors. He kicks a flower arrangement over. Water splashes across the floor. I made you. He screams at me, his voice raw. You're nothing without me. You're just a housewife. You're nothing. The words used to cut me. They used to make me bleed. Now they sound like wind. They sound like a ghost story that doesn't scare me anymore. I feel a strange sensation in my chest. It is heat, it is light, it is power. I watch him get dragged through the grand entrance, his tuxedo jacket bunching up around his ears, his dignity left somewhere near the buffet table. The doors slam shut. The sound is final. Thud, he is gone. The silence returns to the room, but it feels different now. It feels clean. I take a deep breath. My lungs expand fully for the first time in 5 years. I feel lighter. I feel taller. Silas turns away from the doors. He adjusts his cufflinks. He acts as if he just took out the trash. Which I suppose he did. He turns to me. The coldness vanishes from his eyes. Warmth returns. He looks at my messy hair. He looks at the grease stain on my apron. He doesn't see a mess. He sees a partner. He steps close to me, ignoring the hundreds of people watching us. I apologize for the disturbance, Ms. Vance, Silas says softly. It was overdue, I reply. My voice is steady. Silas nods. He looks at the blueprints that are still clutched in Mr. Henderson's hand nearby. Then he looks back at me. We have a lot of work to do, Silas says. The north atrium needs a complete redesign if we're going to implement your wind load corrections. I nod. The variance is off by 0.04%. I can fix it. I know you can, Silas says. He extends his hand. I need a senior partner who actually understands the physics of my building, Alina. My heart hammers against my ribs. Senior partner, I repeat. The title hangs in the air. It is bigger than anything I ever dared to dream of while I was folding Julian's laundry. Silas smiles. It is genuine this time. When can you start? I look at the closed doors where my past just exited. I look at the man offering me my future. I untie the stained apron. It falls to the floor in a heap of dirty fabric. I step over it. I take his hand. Right now. I'm Alina Vance, 32, and the view from the 45th floor looks a lot like victory. I swivel my leather chair toward the floor-to-ceiling glass. The city of Seattle is spread out beneath me like a circuit board of light and steel. The sun is setting. It paints the sky in bruised purples and bleeding oranges. 3 months ago, my view was a pile of dirty boxer shorts and a bottle of bleach in a windowless laundry room. Now my view is the skyline I am actively reshaping. I take a sip of my espresso. It is hot. It is bitter. It tastes like autonomy. I place the cup down on the massive mahogany desk that Silas ordered for me on my first day. He told me to pick any office I wanted. I didn't pick the one closest to the elevator. I picked the one facing the Thorn Tower. I stare at it now. The steel skeleton is rising 3 blocks away. The cranes look like elegant waiting birds against the dusk. The wind load variance I calculated is holding perfectly. The atrium design I sketched on a napkin while hiding in a pantry is being poured in concrete as we speak. It is real. I am real. My phone buzzes against the dark wood of the desk. The sound cuts through the soft jazz playing on my speaker system. I glance at the screen. My stomach muscles tighten reflexively. It is a conditioned response. Pavlov's dog trained to flinch at the sound of its master's voice. But I am not a dog anymore. I pick up the phone. The name on the screen makes my lip curl. Julian, I haven't changed his contact name. I haven't had time. I unlock the screen. The message is long. It is a wall of gray text. Alina, please pick up. I know you're at the office. I saw the press release about the promotion. Congrats, really. Look, I'm in a tight spot. The studio apartment is awful. The mold is triggering my asthma. I just need a small loan, $5,000, just until I get back on my feet. No firms are hiring me. Silas blacklisted me everywhere. Please, baby. Remember the good times? I made you who you are. You owe me this. I read the words. I dissect them like a structural failure. The mold, the asthma, the blacklist. He is living in the squalor he used to force me to clean. He is experiencing the suffocation he used to inflict on me. I feel a ghost of the old Alina try to rise up. The Alina who would have felt guilty. The Alina who would have transferred the money just to make the whining stop. But that Alina died in the laundry room 3 months ago. I look at his profile picture. It is still a photo of him smiling at that gala minutes before security dragged him out by his cheap suit. He looks so confident. He looks so oblivious. I don't feel anger. I don't feel pity. I feel absolutely nothing. It is a beautiful, hollow silence where my anxiety used to live. I don't type a response. I don't explain why he's wrong. I don't tell him that Silas didn't blacklist him. His own incompetence did. I simply tap the small eye icon in the corner. I scroll down to the bottom. My finger hovers over the red text. Block caller, I press it. The confirmation box pops up. Block contact, you will not receive phone calls, messages, or FaceTime from people on the block list. I press block. The phone goes silent. The thread disappears. He is gone. He is a line item I have deleted from the budget. I set the phone face down. I turn back to my drafting table. The large sheet of vellum is waiting for me. It is the concept art for the West Wing expansion. Silas asked for my vision, not my corrections, not my math, my vision. I pick up my drafting pen. It is a heavy black metal instrument. It feels cool against my skin. I check the ink flow. Perfect. I lean over the paper. The smell of graphite and paper fills my nose. It is the best smell in the world. I start to draw. My hand moves with a confidence I never knew I possessed. Lines intersect, curves emerge. I am not hiding my talent anymore. I am pouring it onto the page. I work for an hour as the city turns dark outside my window. When I am finished, I look at the bottom right corner of the blueprint. There is a small box labeled Chief Architect. For 10 years, I watched Julian scribble his initials there on work he didn't do. I take a breath. I press the pen to the paper. The ink bleeds into the fiber, permanent and black. Elena Vance. I underline it. I cap the pen. I look out at the city lights one last time. I am not the woman behind the man. I am the woman who built the tower, and I am just getting started.